talk about these pavers here as well, but when you show somebody sealer, don't do it inside. Go outside. That's where their environment's going to be. And if you look at this outside, and we can drag some of these out when we walk to lunch if you want to, you're going to see there's a fair amount of sheen on the surface. You don't want to know what it took me to get it on, you know. This is an incredibly poor paver surface. But there would be our telltale sign. I got sealer. You can see, you know, the sealer. Like I say, this one is not though. Half of this is sealed. So we have to figure out a way to test it. That's where this comes into play. I don't want a garden hose. I don't want your pressure washer. I want just something I can control. So I'm going to put a bead of water on one side of it, and if it doesn't, and if it's not sealed, and you all can't see it back there, can you?
I can see it.
If it's not sealed, what's my expectation? What happens to water on a surface? Soaks in. Darkens, right? Most surfaces. What do you guys think? Is that sealed or unsealed?
Sealed. Sealed.
I think so.
Unsealed.
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work or not.
There it is.
Now I see it's okay.
Yeah.
I think it has to come down to the components in the brick as well.
Yeah.
Because that's not a normal paver that we would use.
This isn't?
That's not a normal paver that we would use. We'll
Some of your-
put them down, but we normally use the brick pavers. You know what I mean?
these?
So let's talk about.
Yes.
We're gonna
Yeah.
talk about terminology just for a little bit further. Industry terminology. Bricks go on a house. Pavers go on the ground. Both of those can be made out of concrete or clay. Doesn't matter. Bricks on the house. Pavers are on the ground. Now, at dinner last night, we had an interesting conversation that some folks will take brick off of the house, reclaimed brick, and use them in the ground. So what do we call those?
Pavers.
Okay.
Brick pavers.
But you get where I'm going here. Brick are in contact with the ground, pavers are in the house. So don't call me and tell me I've got oh my gosh. Must be lunchtime. That's what I heard. So the point being here, look how thirsty this surface is. So you can actually measure that bead of water. That's how hydrophobic that sealer is. That's invisible. That particular sealer is all about performance. There's nothing shiny, there's nothing pretty about it. Its job is to keep that water out of the system. It's also salt darting too. So if you guys have got salt stabilized pools, or you're doing anything with the seawalls or anything, you know, like that, where you've got the influence of the coastal spray and all that kind of stuff, a product like this might suit your customer's expectation. So I call this flat water, is how I like to refer to it, just because it spreads out, it follows the capillary action of that surface, whereas this just is that nice little bead of water that's sitting up on top there, and we can find out exactly where the line is.
No, it doesn't over time,
Yeah.
that beading dissipates, but you still have the protection.
Correct. Right. Yeah. So we're wetting out. That's a penetrating sealer. So we're wetting out that top little. Really, when we talk about sealers, and sorry, I'm segueing here a little bit too farther than I wanted to go, but the surface is not flat like the tabletop. The surface, in fact, is like my fingertips. I've got valleys, I've got hills, and how a penetrating sealer works, it does all its work down in the valleys. So it does expose a little bit of the hilltops. So you can get some darkening and things like that. But again, how do you tell if there's sealer on the surface? Don't assume. Test it.
Test.
Okay.
What kind of sealer is that, by the way?
That's what I was going to ask. What is
I'll leave that to be a mystery. I will talk about that though. Yeah, just not right now, because we want to get to lunch here. You guys have been very patient with me, and I appreciate that.
What was the purpose of the jeweler's suite?
Thank you very much. I'll buy you dessert as well. Dessert for everybody, why not? All right, so I said there's sealer on half of that, and there's not. This one's got sealer. You guys have a chance here to just play real quick. And I put water on this, and I probably shouldn't have. I will tell you that right now, this is the sealed portion, and there's a line that runs across in this direction. I'm just going to put my little gizmo on there. That's the unsealed. What I'd like you to do is take a look at the jeweler's loop at the sealed, unsealed, and then this is a film forming sealer. And notice the difference. It will be very obvious what portion is sealed and why you can't see the sealer over here.
I'm blind, so they look the same to me.
Yep. Now look at the other one that's sealed.
You can see the shiny.
Yeah, and actually, when I do that, I have to
Get some light onto it.
yeah.
See, this is sealed too, right here.
So maybe I should have you start there first.
Yep. Okay. And so the purpose of this is that you can actually get down and really see what's going on into the pavers. And of course, it's very easy for us to look down majority of the time and just say, yeah, there's a sealer on it. It's easy because the majority of the time, the reason that the customer's calling you out in the first place is because the sealer looked horrible, and it's pretty evident when we show up. We're not going to have a. Typically, they don't call you when things are going right. They didn't just bring you out to say. Now, I do happen to have a couple of customers that are very great customers, and they say, every 2 years, I want you to come out and seal it whether or not it needs it or not. They're proactive in the process. But as you guys know, that's very rare and in between that actually happens. So
Kinda looks wet.
that's why we utilize
soupy,
this
if you
to
will.
get down into it.
So that's unsealed.
To show that we're really looking at what is going on in this substrate, what's really happening.
Yeah, you can see it's sealed, but it's definitely not like that one.
Yeah.
Jay, I got some. I taught science for a while. I've got a little handheld microscope that goes anywhere from 4 to 1 up to I think 80 times.
60 to 120.
Yeah, but it plugs into my USB port on my computer,
Oh.
and I can put it up on the screen.
Oh, nice.
That's
That's even better.
That was
So this one looks really soupy and wet, like there's a bunch of plastic sitting on the surface.
Okay, I see it
yeah,
now.
that was like $30, $40 on Amazon.
Really?
Yeah, so that might be something that you might want to consider.
Can you
I can send
can
you
you
the
send me a
product.
link or something?
Yeah,
That would be fantastic. Because we could do it up there. Because when I do large groups, we don't have the time to do that.
I'm having trouble with what's the main difference?
These two look the same.
You're not supposed to see the difference. That's an invisible sealer.
Right.
That's the whole purpose is that
You need light, Sean. It just doesn't show up as. So compare that to this one. Would be is the real contrast. See? So that's what that's what our eye is picking
Right,
up.
and-
Is that plasticky,
well, and that's
soupy.
where we go into where we segue into the difference between sealer and effervescent
and 9 on the other side.
is, and he'll talk
just
about
go to that
here in
dry
a
spot's
second,
the
and that's
best
what we're
contrast.
setting up to talk about is the difference between
And then
sealer and
that's sealed with
effervescent.
a penetrating sealer.
When he was first in the business, he called parents to go ahead and teach him how to do it.
Whoa.
You have to use deep protection for that.
Paver sealing leads to
Oh, give it. Here, you gotta have a light, otherwise it doesn't.
I'd like to give props to Jay because when he said that he's available,
What's that? I'm sorry.
when Jay says that he's available and he'll talk to you,
Oh yeah.
I spent probably a half hour on the phone with him working through a problem, late last year. With Mike Senior, they helped me out as well. They got me through to Jay, and Jay got me the answer. And there was no get me off the phone kind of your problem with me. You're not generating money right at this
I
moment.
typically can't see anything
They
on
looked
either
after
one
me
of
and
those.
made sure we
Those
got
look
a
the
solution.
same.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the sealed side.
That's sealed.
That's great.
For me, it was a little different. I had to bingo
I'm sure
two
this
on
has got-
first.
Oh, you just definitely.
Yeah. So it just kind of looks soupy wet, a lot of plastic, if you will, sitting on that surface.
Yeah, you can't tell if it's penetrating.
Nope, and that's the point. You're correct.
I do like that thing though.
It is, but I tell you, you go up to a customer and you pull that thing out.
Yeah.
And you get down on the ground. That's what you'll see when my father does this afternoon. He gets down onto the ground and is showing the sand and is looking at those things. And when he does those things,
So we've determined we've got sealer on this. Now we want to get rid of it. Why would I remove a sealer?
Yeah.
Why would I remove a sealer? Under what conditions would it be appropriate for me to remove a sealer? Failed?
It's just going to be that blotching that's into it.
Discolored. I've got. Maybe I didn't pose that question properly. Sorry, because some of you are looking at me like, "What the heck is he talking
It's just
about?"
a
I've got a whitish stain trapped underneath the sealer. Okay, it might have efflorescence coming up underneath it that's not able to escape. Somebody might have sealed over the top of something. When we show up to do our work, we don't always know the whole story. We inherit a lot of issues. So it's nice to know how to take off a sealer. So I'm going to take this one. Happens to be 8,700. Let's do 9,000. And I'll just pass this around just to make sure you guys can kind of see that. If you get it in the right light, you can kind of see how there's a little bit of shine to that. That's what I'm looking at. That's what we're going to try and take off. So we're going to do a little stripping. So how many people have ever stripped before? Sorry guys, I just had a really bad visual.
Thanks, Jay. There goes Mike.
You started this. Of course, they're going to throw nickels at me, so it's not going to be any dollars.
That was the pinnacle, by the way, of my humor. So thank you, I appreciate that. So has anybody tried stripping sealer off of a surface?
Yes.
Okay. So let me describe for everybody else that hasn't done this before, and you guys keep me honest. Make sure I'm describing this properly, because I want to make sure that they understand what they're getting themselves into. It is the yuckiest, pukiest thing you're ever going to do. Pulse?
Nasty.
Okay.
10 hours on the ground.
I got sand flying all over the place. Well, if you're doing pavers, you're blowing sand joints out. That happens anyway. That's the way. Get used to it. Because by the way, each one of those grains of sand represent dollars. So I'm okay with that. But you got stuff flying all over the place. It stinks. I got old sealer perhaps coming off, and then it's just nasty. How I like to say this is embrace that, okay? Because that's all money. So we have 2 guys that have done stripping, 4 guys, okay? 4 out of 20, whatever, okay? All the rest of you guys get their telephone numbers, because if you don't want to do the stripping side of this, that's fine. They will, okay? It's money. It's that plain and simple, okay? It's a specialty if you want to look at it that way. Do you have to go out and strip sealer every day, every week? No. But you're going to come across it. And if you ignore it, it's going to come back and bite you. And then you will have to go back and strip it off of that. And now it's going to really cost you some money instead of making you some money. So that's why I go through this exercise. That's why I want you to be comfortable with it. This is something you can practice. Put a glossy sealer on a paver, let it cure for 24 hours. Now let's go and play on it, try and get rid of it. So I'm going to do that. We're going to take some Sure Strip. Sure Strip is ready to use. This is sprayable though. So if you've got 1,000 square feet to use, go ahead and spray this out. I only want to do it in small sections that aren't going to dry before I can get to it. With sealer removal, stripping, it's all about dwell time. I need a solid 15 minutes typically with Sure Strip. And this will take off about 85%, 90% of the sealers out in the marketplace. There's a couple of real boogers that are coming into the marketplace from out in California. It's actually an industrial coating. And even their companies don't know how to remove the product. So give me a break. But this works out well. This will take off anything that comes out of the big box stores. It'll take off all my products that are, now I'm going to throw some more terminology on it, that are film formers. So this product over here that beaded up the water on it, that's a penetrating sealer. There's nothing for me to remove. That's down deep inside of those pores. It's down in those valleys, remember? I'm doing a film former which covers everything. It's up on top, okay? That's the stuff that you can see. So when there's a shine on it, that was a film former, okay? And we're gonna talk about some other differences there. So I'm just gonna take some Sure Strip, I'm gonna pour it out on the surface, and I'm doing it inside of this container because I don't want to end up buying a little plastic table here. One thing I would tell you about Sure Strip, actually a couple things I should tell you about Sure Strip. This does not know the difference between the sealer on this paver or the paint that's on the front door or the paint that's on the column of the deck that's holding up the deck overhead. You guys don't do decks here, do you? Okay, never mind. The garage door, okay, it doesn't know the difference from any of those surfaces. Protect the surfaces you don't want to get damaged. Okay, protection can be simply just doing a shield. We'll show you that, you know, later on today or tomorrow. You can take a piece of cardboard. I've got an actual painter's shield, which is in my case, mine is a 18 by 32 inch piece of plastic. It's a hard plastic with a nice handle. I can shield along the surface and spray at the same time, so I don't have to have two people to do it. But it will protect those surfaces from, you know, overspray and splatter and things like that. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and pour this on the surface. And again, if you guys want to see this, there's really nothing real glamorous about this. I'm trying to do this so I can control this a little bit. I'm just going to get a little blob on the end down here so we can just see what that's going to be.
Jay, is this something that you would just use straight, or is it
Straight,
dilute?
yeah. There's nothing to dilute with this. It's all chemistry. Yeah. So this is the watch the paint dry. So again, you typically need 10 to 15 minutes. Now, I'll tell you a little story as long as we've got a little time here on these pavers that I sampled. These were gotten from a big box store. I hope nobody is installing these pavers. Okay, that's all I'm going to say, I guess, because these are extremely porous pavers. So this is SB 9000, and if you look closely, it's almost gone. I will tell you that this will be a challenge to strip, not because the sealer is that great, it's because of the surface is that porous. This has 3 coats of SB 9000 on it. SB 9000 is like Caro syrup. It's very thick. It has a very, very low viscosity to it, or high viscosity, excuse me. Typically develops all kinds of sheen. If I put 3 coats of sealer on a piece of travertine, 3 coats of SB 9000 on a piece of travertine, it would look like glass. It's going to be slippery. Okay, I barely can see it on this. So
You put a shark bite in that?
yeah, and I'm just saying that for example. When I talk to sealers, I'll actually tell you the right way to do it.
So that's SB 9000?
That was 9000. Yeah, it's a solvent-based, high gloss sealer, high solids content.
Solvent.
So
I know you don't like them.
So the goal here is to keep that surface wet long enough so that that sealer can get broken down. And all we're doing is not really dissolving the sealer, it's resolving. I'm taking some chemistry, some solvents, and I'm loosening up all those particles, you know, inside of there to the point where I can get them flushed off the surface. That's all I'm trying to do. You typically do stripping cold water rinse instead of hot. Okay. The reason we don't want to do hot in most cases is because I don't want that stuff to get soft. If it gets soft, it's going to get sticky. If it gets sticky, where's it going to go?
Sticks down again.
You'll have a snail trail. Wherever your rinsed water is going down, you'll have this white trail going down there. So I'm going to tell you, I normally don't have to reapply. I'm going to have to reapply. There's nothing on that surface. That's a challenge. Okay, so let's try it. I'm going to keep going here. It'll probably start coming out the bottom.
Is this something that you have to use like a brush with or anything, or application
Yeah,
spray down?
you typically want to agitate it. So how this typically works out is on a project, and again, every job is different. This is brand new sealer. This will be the hardest sealer to get off. I was talking to somebody earlier about a project that was 3 years old. There's probably little or no sealer left, you know, at that point. Easy. You know, that's not a big deal. Probably a short dwell time. You're doing it more as a cheap insurance policy, you know, at that point. But in this case, there's all kinds of sealer left here. And I'm going to start just agitating this a little bit to see if I can get something to happen here, because there's so much of this is going into this porous paver.
Do you have to reclaim that when you're cleaning it, or you just put it down in the street and down in the sewer?
Nothing goes down the stormwater drain. And I have video. Nothing goes down the stormwater drain. 1996, thereabouts, the Federal Steam Clean Water Act got passed, and the only thing that goes down the stormwater drain is stormwater.
That was my point. So I mean, you should have a reclaim if you're going to be doing this.
Or divert it off into the lawn or the mulch bed.
Or hire somebody with a
On Saturday
Yeah.
morning, you
Hire
like to
someone
pull
with
your
reclaim.
Dodge into your driveway, and you like to clean it up real good so it's all set and ready to go for next week, right? And you're using some type of a surfactant, a soap, whatever, to clean it. You're doing some kind of a tire wash, whatever, and all that stuff goes where?
Normally a residential person's not gonna
Okay.
get busted, but if you're doing it for work, you will.
Yeah. So, now one thing I want you guys to see this, and I went too fast. As soon as you add water to SureStrip, it turns white. And what we're picking up is the polymers that we're flushing off of the surface. So that's also a way to tell if you're getting any activity off of that. And I'm trying to recreate that, and I did it too fast. I apologize. But I'm going to tell you, I can still feel the sealer on here. This is not going to be successful. It still feels a little slippery when it's wet. So if you're going to strip on a paver like this, I want to know about before I do the estimate. Because this might be one that I will politely say no and leave. I don't want to do this job. I'll be real honest with you guys. If this was your project that you were talking about, this might be one of the ones that I'm going to pass on. Sure like to know that now though, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well,
right?
considering when I called the Technoseal guy, he said if I would've went xylene over it, it would've been fine. I could've just rolled it all out and been done.
So let me come back to that because I think that's important to talk about. Normally this works. That little bit of exercise that I did would have stripped that off of there. I'm going to leave this dry and we can take a look at this later and see if we were successful in getting any of that off of there. Now that I just got paper towel all over it.
That's what it looks like when you pressure wash it off.
You'd be surprised how much more of that came off than what you think it
So if
is,
someone
because you
does
can
a
already see
newer
it right
sealant-
here.
The shine's
you can
dropped.
See, you can see it. It's
If someone
off
does a newer
here.
sealant job,
It's
messed it
definitely
up,
off there.
That's something you have to tell the
I
customer
don't
you
know
have
if
to
you can
live
see
with
it
it for a
yet,
year, maybe
where
it'll
they
break
put it
down
on
before you
right
can
here.
No, do it.
This is off.
Do it. You can do it. You can get that off right away. Yeah. I'm just telling you
That won't come off.
well, Mike just said you'd be surprised.
You can see it's off.
I've knocked the shine off of it, but we're gonna let it dry, and I want you guys to see success and failure because that's what life's all about. You're gonna see that. To your
Didn't you say it's harder if it's a new seal?
say again. I'm sorry.
Did you say it's harder to strip it if it's a new seal?